One single Exalted Orb managed to break Path of Exile 2. The fourth Ascension boss, tier 16 maps, hell even the Arbiter of Ash does not stand a chance against a level 1 weapon that costs 1 Exalted. Welcome to a new style of Zero to Hero guide. Please leave feedback if you like it. Make yourself a huntress because we'll need the Amazon Ascendancy. Wake up at the beach and then stab the dude, not the zombie, the dude. The spear you will use for exactly 5 minutes, poking the bloated miller, and that's it. We pick up our first skill gem, and then it's time to equip the Rampart Raptor, the one weapon that costs only 1 Exalted Orb on the market right now. Now, our first skill for the Rampart Raptor are the Permafrost rounds. Now, what makes the Raptor so interesting? If you have reloaded recently, you do not spend ammunition in the next 4 seconds. This means you're able to simply spam away like crazy. On top of the Raptor, we're also going to use the North Paw Bracers. And as a second skill, you pick up the Fragmentation rounds, which can consume a freeze to do a super blast of damage. In order to use this efficiently, you'll pick up a second crossbow, and then bind the Permafrost bolts to your weapon set number 1, and your Fragmentation rounds to weapon set number 2. With my right click, I will now spam away the Permafrost bolts, and then with a click of my middle mouse button, boom, I unlash the Fragmentation rounds to consume that phrase. This will tear Bearer into absolute pieces. And the same goes for the stupid Worm. Freeze him, shoot him with the Fragmentation rounds, dead. And luckily he granted us a top-notch crossbow. Teleport back to pick up your first 2 support skills. This will be Elemental Armament and Pierce for your Frostburst round, so you can now shoot through everyone for maximum damage and freeze everyone. Early Abyss enemies, no problem. And the annoying witch in the forest gets absolutely manhandled. And her support gem we will use to boost our Fragmentation rounds with the Hourglass support. Now we can use the skill only every 10 seconds, however we get 30% more damage, and we only use it to consume freeze for the super burst. Ask the Rested King how much he liked it. He didn't. His level 3 support gem will be used for the Flash Grenade, which is a nice bonus clearing tool. We won't need that Flash Grenade though for the Rotten Druid. However, he drops a support gem that we can then use for multi-shot on the Flash Grenade to now really clear things with it. Freeze the Cinia in the graveyard and blast her into the pieces. The same goes for Draven. We don't want to have her wait long for her concert. And then make sure to reunite Lachlan with his family. Simply freeze, burst rounds, and then keep spamming. Don't forget those bonus skill points from the Crowbell, and make sure to invest them first here on the left side, going for the bonus evasion rating and picking up the 40% projectile damage and stun build-up. The minus attack speed is annoying, however, that bonus damage is insane. Now let's bully the King of the Mist because he's holding the key to our success, and that would be the Herald of Ice. Since we're permafrost rounding all the time, this tremendously speeds up our clear. After punishing the Executioner for bullying that poor man, we get another support gem and we had an inspiration. What if we use Concentrated Effect for our frag rounds? Because they only need to hit one enemy in a very small cone, and Concentrated Effect gives us the most damage for that. We put this to a test versus Candlemas, and it couldn't have been easier. The same goes for his buddy Count Geonor. At the end of Act 1 with level 14, your skill tree should look following. This is kind of weird that we're going here over this side. No worries, it will make sense in Act 2. Our equipment at this point is still the Rampant Raptor together with a North Paw and then just Iron Ring and Ruby Ring for bonus damage. You want as high flat damage as you can get while you're stacking evasion rating and armor, whatever you can get there. And for your second crossbow, you're trying to get as much damage as possible that your frag rounds really hurt. Skill-wise, you're going to have Elemental Armament together with a Pierce on the Permafrost. We got Multi-Shot with Elemental Armament on the Flash Grenade, Elemental Armament and Magnified Area for the Herald of Ice, and Fragmentation rounds together with Hourglass and the Concentrated Area. Act 2 is going to be quite different than Act 1 because we're not going to see many changes in the skill department. They're exactly going to stay the same from the start to the end of the act as I've just shown you. The first big change is going to be your Ascendancy. Grab the token, head over to the Trials of Sakimas right away. You can do it with level 19, 20, doesn't matter. Your power level is incredible, especially since we equipped a new pair of boots. Those will be the Wake of Destruction. They give you 1 to 50 possible lightning damage, boosting it absolutely into oblivion. With the attention, we're going to choose the Amazon over the Ritualist. Why is that? We're going to get more attack speed, and then we're going to get open weaknesses on the enemy for 50% more damage. And those open weaknesses are the red splotches on the enemy's health bar. And now imagine extracting the phrase for that bonus Kavam with the 50% damage multiplier. Later down the line, we're going to get incredible attack speed and an insane crit hit chance. Both are needed to actually make the build function, to make the Rampart Raptor go crazy with the super attack speed you saw in the intro. Do make sure that in Act 2 you get a killer crossbow with the Lightless Well and the Abyssal features. And then send Jamanra packing. You don't even have to avoid his attacks because you're going to be quite tanky and will freeze, extract, freeze, extract. I couldn't be simpler. For your passive tree, we're going to extend outwards from the heavy ammunition to get ourselves bonus elemental damage and attack damage for the permafrost rounds, together then with attack speed that you can up just away faster, especially into those open weaknesses, which extends us further down here to the damage to close enemies as we pretty much stand in front inside the enemy. Now Act 3 is where it's going to get juicy. First order of business, get yourself the 1 or 2 Jeweler's Orb that you can pick up in the beginning. This will upgrade our permafrost rounds with Ice Bite, now freeze, more damage. And we'll upgrade our fragmentations rounds with elemental armament for more boom. Then we need to punish the monkey for all the pain he has inflicted to the players one-hitting them by one-hitting him. And also get absolutely annoyed by having to find the priestess. And then upgrade our stun threshold. Next up, we get lost searching for the Bog Witch, but we get a tier 3 support gem, which will have our pierce now pierce even more. Then we send the witch back to hell for having us go through her absolutely annoying zone, and she will give us a spirit gem for the Herald of Ash, which is insane for your stun grenade, which now will have bonus explosions. Grab yourself the token for the Trouts of Chaos from the Chimera. And don't forget checking for the vendor for a new crossbow, trying to then upgrade it at the light as well, getting absolutely disappointed. Now we're going to deal with Blackjaw and Explosive Manners, and afterwards head into the Trials of Chaos, where we get our next ability with a tier 9 skill gem. That would be the Oil Grenade, lowering the elemental resistance of our enemies to make our permafrost round stronger. At the end, get blessed with a good boss fight, and not the stupid owl. This gives us Amazon Ascendancy number 2 for even more skill speed, and now if an enemy has an open weakness, we get 40% increased skill speed, so our Vab that already has infinite ammo with the permafrost rounds is now super fast. This new attack speed you're putting to very good use, absolutely demolishing the bosses in your way. Them which Elvar taking a slap into the face and avenge your queen. Chat. Lastly, Manhandle Doriani in his phase number 1, and phase 2 isn't harder. Passive wise, we're gonna get ourselves more damage, and more damage, plus a chance to maim on hit, reducing their evasion rating. And then we're extending here from the left side to get ourselves the Blinding Strike for even more damage, which will then lead to even more attack speed and some nifty bonuses on the right side down the line in the next act. Your skills are going to look following. Permafrost Bolts has Elemental Armament 2, Pierce 2, and Ice Bite. Flash Grenade get Multishot 2 and Elemental Armament 2. Oil Grenade has the Persistent Ground with a Potent Exposure for more Elemental Resistance minus. And we get the Herald of Ash with Magnified Area, Herald of Ice with Elemental Armament and Magnified Area, and the Fragmentation round still with Hourglass, Concentrated Fact, and Elemental Armament 2. Act 4 is all about improving our passive tree, getting an absolute banger weapon, and also trying to improve our defense with more armor. For this, we're hopping from island to island, destroying bosses left, right, and center, while your level 1 crossbow does not feel like he's falling off. After downing the elite in the beast pants, we finally get our first level 4 support gem, which is going to give us cooldown recovery on the stun grenade. This is super important because otherwise you're always waiting for it to come back up. And with that bonus cooldown reduction, we can now use it efficiently for clearing. Then we do actually try to craft a better bow, but the Lightless Well lets us down once again. This does not stop us from trying the same for an armor and being actually blessed by the gods. This new stuff has us for the first time ever one phase the monkey. Come on! Yes! Afterwards, I almost fell for a mermaid, and then I had to vent my disappointment. Now for the next area, I thought the boss fight, you need to actually go through all his faces, unless you just do more damage. Quickly send his friend the Herald of Utopia packing, and then enjoy my favorite cutscene in the campaign so far. Lastly, we get the final fight against Tavakai, and in the region leading up to him, we slowly noticed how our freeze shots are not doing all the damage anymore to clear the rabble. That's what we're going to now have to address in Act 5 with level 52. I wonder how you can like turn into such a monster and be like, yeah, this is definitely the power of the ancestors that we have been worshipping since forever, right? Our passive in Act 4 are going to give us a lot of attack speed and evasion rating. And then we're going to travel all the way over here. And this is going to give us bonus damage, then a lot of bonus damage against rare or unique enemies, plus critical hit chance, and even more AC rating against rare and unique enemies, plus attack speed. Again, that AC rating will be super good for our third ascension. And the crit chance is going to help the ultimate version of the build that destroys everything in the end. Skill-wise, the only thing that changed was getting the cooldown recovery 2 for our flash grenade. Everything else is the same. In the equipment department, we swapped away our gloves for way more physical damage gloves. We picked up super good ones. The boots are the same. Chest is armor. The helmet is just something we picked up. You simply want as much armor and/or evasion rating as possible. Our crossbow is still the Rampart Raptor, and the second crossbow, a high physical damage one if possible. If you get a physical elemental mix, that's fine. The Interlude acts are about to change everything because we're getting a new level of clear with level 52 and Siege Cascade, and a new pair of gloves. Siege Cascade shoots up in the sky, arrows land do damage, and explode do even more damage. And in order to spam them away like this, we get really cool support gems. That would be Stun 2 and Double Barrel 3. Stun 2 gives us more stun buildup, and Double Barrel 3 says supported skill reload automatically when heavy stunning an enemy with them. And if you remember, we actually took in the very beginning heavy ammunition for that 40% increased projectile stun buildup. You're pretty much going to load this into your crossbow number 2, not the Rampart Raptor, and just vop, 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 shoot it in the sky, heavy stun your opponents, and you never have to reload. If you have a Gemini or a dyed crossbow, you'll have 3 bolts, which makes this smoother. If you have a normal crossbow, you'll have only 2 bolts, and every now and then we'll have to actually reload. The gloves we're adding on top with level 52 would be the Essentia Sanguis. They also cost 1 Exalted. They give you 1 to 50 possible lightning damage. Crazy. For bosses, we're still using the permafrost rounds together with the fragmentation. It still works, it's just less efficient. And since we're getting another spirit skill, we can add Wind Dancer to the fray for bonus defense. Also, since we're using the Siege Cascade for clear, you don't actually have to use your Herald of Ice anymore. You can early in the Interlude Act swap over to Wind Dancer, and then actually add Ghost Shroud already down the line. With Emergency Reload, you have another skill that just boosts your overall damage to make your clear against bosses even more efficient. And then with cooldown recovery 2 and prolonged duration, you have a quicker up again, and it lasts longer. In your passes, we have been doing everything to get more attack speed that we can bop, 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 really spam fast away. And then we're going for the bonus evasion rating to finally build up some kind of defense. That's also why we want to have Wind Dancer to then survive better. Now, at the end of the Interlude acts, you start noticing how your permafrost rounds with the fragmentation are just not enough anymore, right? They're not going ba-ba-ba-bam. Therefore, you need to ascend. As soon as you're done with the campaign, grab yourself a level 60 Jin Barrier token, off into the Trials of Sekimas, 3rd Ascension done. Because then we're getting the bonus critical hit chance. The note specifically says chance to hit with attacks can exceed 100%, and we get 25% of the access chance to hit with attacks as critical hit chance. Ergo, more accurating, more crit. In my case, we're sitting right now at 73.75% chance for a critical hit, which is absolutely needed. But it is on the high velocity rounds, because yes, things are about to change. Your actual clear on maps is going to be the Siege Cascade. You're simply zooming over it, they rain down from the sky and explode everything. Especially the Abyss works so good, because if everything is pulling out on the middle, your cascades run around and erupt, the elites that come out of those holes, they instantly die. However, that Siege Cascade does just not feel good against bosses, and your Frost Bursts are not strong enough. And that's where we now rely on a technique called Riven Armor, and this comes from the high velocity rounds. Now, it's going to sound complicated at first, but it's actually super simple. How does Riven Armor exactly work now? It is a debuff that's being applied by high velocity rounds if the enemy has fully broken armor. Riven Armor lasts for 5 seconds, and the damage that the high velocity shot did, the actual boom, that damage you can trigger again and again and again by quick firing with your fragmentation rounds, which leads to outcomes like this where the boss absolutely gets vaporized. And the actual process is super simple. Reload your 1 crossbow with high velocity rounds, then put the fragmentation rounds into the Rampart Raptor, and the armor is being broken by our companion. Yeah, we have a fancy ant here in the background who walks up to the boss, bam bam, breaks the armor. We shoot with high velocity, they get Riven Armor applied to that, and the high velocity shot should do the most damage possible. Let's assume the high velocity rounds did 100,000 damage. Riven Armor is 5% of that, so we would do 5,000 damage. However, it gets triggered from every single hit, and the fragmentation rounds are not 1 hit, they're 10 fragments, and every fragment counts as a hit. This has your 5,000 damage be times 10 again, and you're going to consider the, well, fire rate that we're having. And ta-da, suddenly everything is being shredded. No matter if it's now the 4th boss in the Ascension, tier 16 map bosses, or even Mr. Zash behind me is also getting torn into pieces. Now, in order to have your high velocity rounds deal as much damage as possible, you need inevitable critical together with pinpoint critical, so we can make sure that we have the highest critical strike chance possible. We're also increasing the whole damage it does with Heft, and we're playing Garakan's Resolve. Garakan's Resolve is pretty interesting. You have to actually move 20 meters, so you're able to use the ability, but it's going to have your crits bifurcates, if I pronounce that correct. Which means your crits are now rolling twice. If you crit in both rolls, you do double damage. If you crit in one roll, you just do your normal critical strike damage bonus, leading to a potential super hit. Lastly, we also put Excise on because we use this only every 8 seconds. Therefore, it's the highest critical hit chance multiplier that we can kinda get. And your Fragmentations rounds are not supposed to do damage themselves because the only damage they deal is now the actual Riven Armor trigger. Therefore, we just look for maximum attack speed. Rapid attacks 3, together with Streamlined rounds, again, 60% less damage, 50% less damage, but 50% more attack speed and 35% more, right? And then we have Impale, because if you then impale someone, that Impale will trigger with a Riven Armor, doing even more damage. Really nifty. Plus, we get a Rigvold's Ferocity, that if this is weapon set number 1, which it is, it gets another 20% more attack speed. The companion we're using is the End, the Frozen Mandibles. Mine has Break Armor and the Haste Aura. Haste Aura would be another 20% attack speed. In order for the Mandibles to not instantly die, we get Elemental Army together with Minion Mastery. Could probably play Meat Shield as well, but that would be bad because we needed to break armor quick. That's why we also put on Uruk Smelting. Breaks 70% more armor, and if it breaks armor, the enemy takes 2% increased physical damage. Plus Rapid attacks 2, so it attacks faster and breaks armor quicker. The End itself, you get in the Interlude Acts, in the 3rd region, the Glade, and then here, Ashen Forest. There's an anthill with a respawn point where you can then catch it. If you're unable to find the companion skill because you're not used to this, that is under the Spear Tree. Again, one more time emphasizing the rotation of the skills. Wait for broken armor, shoot them with the high velocity rounds, and then just spam away. Simple as cake. If you want to, you can do emergency reload to actually get even more damage. In order to be super defensive, I swapped my chest piece to be full energy shield, and actually my boots, gloves, and helmet to be full evasion rating. That will make sense with the 4th Ascension. My one crossbow is still the Rampart Raptor, and my second one is a Gemini crossbow that I crafted up with the Abyssal mechanics, adding another 103 lightning damage. This is not even the end what crossbows can reach, they go up to 1000 damage. Now the passive tree gets a bit tricky because we have to work with weapon set 1 and 2 now, since weapon set 1 wants as much attack speed as possible here, right? We want the attack speed, we want that going on, everything attack speed related up here too. Our fragmentation rounds should shoot as fast as possible to Riven Armor, Riven Armor, Riven Armor, Riven Armor, while on the other side, we're trying to get a lot of crit for our weapon set 2. That's why we have here, for example, the increased critical hit chance for attacks plus AC rating. And then on the bottom, we also have, again, more crit hit chance on AC rating, more crit hit chance on AC rating, that good stuff. And also the bonus crossbow damage, as we want our beautiful shot here to have as much damage as possible. We want the cascade to go absolutely crazy, right? And regarding your 3 defensive items here, after going for the bonus critical strike on the 4th Ascension, you actually choose Stalking Panther. Evasion rating from equipped helmet, gloves, and boots are doubled. Thank you very much. And evasion rating from body armor is halved. Well, I don't care. This has to be super defensive together with a Ghost Dance, which actually restores for me 861 energy shield. And I have a grand total of 717 energy shield. Could have even some more with a better chest piece, but you get the drift. I get hit, I get my full energy shield back. Well, I also have 60 plus evasion rating due to the 40% increased evasion rating while moving. Now, can this cooked up madness actually take down the Arbiter of Ash, your level 1 Exalted crossbow? And don't worry if you missed a single thing or didn't understand something. We have everything from Act 1 to Act 4. You can pretty much scroll through here, start mapping. Then we get the 4th Ascension, everything really step by step by step with all the skills, with the equipment pieces we've been wearing at this point. And you can always ask questions in the comments. And now enjoy that Arbiter fight. Play skilled Chan. Wait, that was quick? Hey, we almost had him. Perfect. Yeah, good. Fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Arbiter down. Okay, we have the exceptional regalia.